do us a favor. Felicia's worked real fucking hard on this podcast. She plays music. She does everything but show you a little fucking blonde monkey. Do me a favor. Vote for the fucking podcast award, all right? Anymore. Today, not tomorrow, not next week. You went and voted for one of these momos for presidents. Now, go vote for us. You got till November 15th. Get your shit together. What's happening, Felicia Michaels?
Well, Joey Diaz, I've just been very busy doing the podcast with the ladies. I have a new little podcast with the ladies called She Said What. So I've just been super busy with that and, my kid stuff. And, today's crazy because people are going to go vote, which is crazy. And I'm so glad it's going to be over with. And but I'm gnawing my fingernails down to the quick at the same time. I know you don't give a fuck, but... do you give a fuck? Are you nervous?
I give a fuck,
care?
I just don't know. I know that one thing for sure. I know our guest today is from Jersey, and here's the funny thing. In Jersey, you're allowed to email your votes, which I've left Jersey 25 years ago, and I still vote in Jersey because they vote for you. You know what I'm saying? They do the paperwork for you. They do the absentee ballot for you. So I can't imagine there's going to be drama from this vote. Just from the New Jersey, New York side of people not voting. Some of the fucking voting places are still dark. I know there's going to be drama. Again, I don't give a fuck. I could just see it coming. There's going to be a riot by Friday.
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw in the news that Mitt Romney already has a legal team in place in Ohio.
Told you.
So it's just
it's just
going
to be a
kink. It is now, right, Rich? You're
everybody. Obama has a legal team in place, too.
No,
I have a legal team in place. Everybody.
Joey has a legal team in place, for sure.
I got a gun, you got a gun, we all got guns.
We all got fucking guns. Now we got to get the bullets for those fucking guns. That's the problem. Shit. It's and that's what, and they're still having a hard time. I'm reading about this shit in the paper this morning online that FEMA hasn't hit the certain places. They won't let TV channels go into certain places to show how bad it really is. Which this is the horrors of this type of stuff. This is it.
Yeah.
On Thursday and Friday, I had all the pictures of Obama hugging white women with bandages on their head. That's always great for votes and shit like that. But this is fucked up. I got too many things going on in my life to add that to it. So.
And I was very busy this weekend with the baby shower for your lovely wife, Terry. Ritch, I don't know if you ever know this about me. I'm just not that kind of a girl. To make a baby shower, it's not my thing, Joey. I was so nervous, and it was so ridiculous that I was melting fucking candy bars and diapers in the microwave oven to play Smell the Poopy Diaper, and guess what candy bar that is? I mean, what the fuck is wrong with women, Joey Diaz? What the fuck is wrong with women? It's frightening, and I did it. I fucking did it, and it was awesome.
Felicia is very good at a lot of things, but one of her strong points is she knows how to throw a party. Some people are very bad at it. I'm very bad at it. That's why I don't do it. A party to me is beers,
a bucket
some
of KFC
napkins,
on the floor.
and fucking, you know what I'm saying? Break out the drugs and the reefer and let's go.
I provided the room, you provide everything
else. You provide the entertainment, cocksuckers. You go to one of Felicia's parties, it's fucking finger foods.
I've been here. I've been in this room before.
Yeah, she doesn't fuck around. She doesn't fuck around.
Yeah.
Felicia's very, when it comes to throwing a party, she knows how to do it.
But it's there's all these rules when you do a baby shower, and it's so. But it was very exciting, and your wife is gonna be huge.
Did you see
huge.
that? Have you fucking seen that?
Oh my God, Joey! I'm so glad my kids are adopted, Joey. I swear to God, when I see your wife at night, I get out of my bed and I kneel on my knees and I pray and thank the Lord that a teenager got pregnant and gave me her babies. That's all
90%. And 98% of the conversation is the baby weighs 4 pounds. At this point, you just want to shoot yourself. You know what I'm saying? I got the election stuff on television. I got baby talk on the fucking couch. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about how to make rent and how my flight's going to be to Chicago.
And she's at that point where she can't complete a sentence, and that's a chemical thing. When women get to that point, I don't know if your ex-wife ever had that, Rich, where when they're talking, when they get to the point like a month or two out, where they can't complete a sentence. They're not. It's not together correctly. Their bodies are off.
Listen, I don't give a fuck about sentences. I went to make a protein shake this morning. There was no milk. And she went to fucking Ralph's on Saturday. And there was no milk. I asked her tonight, when you went to Ralph's, did you buy milk? She goes, I forgot. So that just goes to show you, fuck the sentences in Sesame Street. I wanted my fucking milk this morning, all right? I was starving. I was stoned. I made to make my protein shake, and it's gone. She forgot the fucking milk, guys.
She is baking your evil seed in her
you're
stomach,
ready for
Joey.
bigger deprivation than no milk.
Oh,
Joey, there was no milk. What am I going to do? Joey, you don't wait till this kid is born.
Please. And I sleep through everything, you know, but I'm a night prowler. Like, I like getting up at 3. If there's action, I'll get up and smoke a joint and turn on Law and Order. I'll get the party started at 3. I was raised in that society where
smoke a joint and change a diaper.
You know, now I have to transform all this shit. It's funny. I was telling Rich how, you know, I've taken Twitter and I just applied drug sales. You know, you show up on an 8 ball, you do it yourself. You're gonna hold on to that 8 ball. But if you show up on an 8 ball and give it a few bumps, you'll sell that fucking 8 ball. You know what I'm saying? So now,
you see, Joey, I was too much of a drug addict to be any kind of a dealer. My whole thing was, I'll get an 8 ball. See, and I'll sell an 8 ball for $2 1/4, and I'll sell 3 grams for $300. I got a $75 profit, and I can do a half a gram for myself. So I might as well do the half a gram right now. Wait a minute, I got a new plan. Okay, I'll do another gram, and that means I can sell 2 grams, and it's only cost me $25 for a gram and a half. I mean, I got a new plan. I sell 1 gram, and that means wait, new plan. I gotta get another 8 ball.
I gotta go find another 8 ball now and come up with a fucking
It didn't really
story
work out
front.
for me, Joey. You know?
Well, that's why I tried to sell it before I did it. That's the plan. You try to sell it before you do it.
Yeah, well,
you know you got
so well for me.
You know you got 200 investment in it. All you need is 210 to make a profit. All we need is 210 to make a profit. I made a fucking profit, all right? Well, the rest of it goes is no. You know, I always went for a $10 profit, and I was good. If it was over $10, and I knew the guy was coming, then we were in business. But no, it's weird to wake up in the middle of the night and see your wife sitting there like a fucking mambo. She's just sitting there, like, and I'm like, what's up? Nothing. You hungry? No. Just watching TV. She goes, I'm uncomfortable. How the fuck you think I felt when I was walking around at 4:15? I was uncomfortable too. You see it, you know?
Is this where we're supposed to cry our tears for you, Joey?
Fuck
Diaz?
no! Fuck no!
Joey,
Fuck no!
she's uncomfortable. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on here.
She's got this being in her belly, and she seems to be uncomfortable.
Listen, my wife never woke up in the middle of the night. 10 years, that was what kept us together.
That is what kept them
She
together.
never
Because he
woke
tells
up
stories, and I'm
and
like,
see
where
what
was
was-
your wife? She's asleep.
Let's see what was really going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, some wives get up at 1 and they fucking find a mess in that house. So for years, but now she gets up 3 times a night. So it fucks with my night life, you know, my little thing I got going on over there. Because I become a cat at night. Like, my senses rise. You know, when you do stand-up and you come home at night, if you don't drink or do drugs, your fucking senses are elevated.
Oh, you're awake.
You're fucking wide awake. And it's 1 a.m. You can hear everything. You're like a fucking cat, like a spider. I hear everything. When I come home after doing stand-up, you don't want to come home. And especially, it's weird because when I did drugs, I didn't want to come home. But now I got to come home. And it's a different feeling now. It's the levels of stand-up are really fucking amazing when you see what your life, like for you, how long have you been doing stand-up?
Well, I started doing it like 79, stuff like that, 78, 79.
Where at?
In Washington, D.C.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. There were no comedy clubs. A guy was going to law school, and a guy said, "You're funny, man. You're so funny. And you got to go to this coffee house, man." And it was the Iguana Coffee House, where just a bunch of hippies in the bottom of a church trying to wait out disco, you know. And I got in there, and I had my thing all prepared, and I remember going. I got shushed by a couple guys playing chess. I got the tape.
By guys playing chess.
I followed a poet whose last line was, "Like the mango, we are ripe for the revolution." And then I got like one. The only reaction I got the whole time that I spoke, other than the shushing, was one guy went, "Huh," like that. That was like a strangled kind of half laugh, you know.
And I bet that meant the world to you,
I said,
right?
"I'm coming back, man."
Yeah.
I was it. And then and then there was a place called El Brookman's was opened up. Lewis Black was there, and Ron Zimmerman. Some of these guys you may know, John Heyman, and T.P. Mulrooney from Chicago now. And then a place called Garvin's opened up, which was professional. I remember I went over there. It was in Northwest Washington, like a really nice area.
That was just it, so a few years ago.
Garvin's was there, yeah. The first show I saw was Richard Belzer and David Say. And,
wow.
That was like the first show they had down there.
Wow.
And but I used to go watch like comics, like Franklin Ajay came through town and in the cellar door. I was living in Washington.
By the way, Franklin Ajay looks good. I photographed him
Oh,
a few
he's
years
great.
ago. He
He's
looks
great.
fucking awesome.
He's great.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was that, and then I moved to New York.
Wow.
Yeah, because I didn't even know there were comedy clubs in New York. A friend of mine said, "Hey, she was in law school." She said, "There are comedy clubs in New York." I go, "What? Comedy? What do you mean comedy clubs?" She goes, "Yeah, clubs where they just do comedy." So she took me up there, and we went over. Couldn't get in the Improv. Couldn't even get in Catch a Rising Star. We went over to Comic Strip. We got in there, and I'm watching a show, and even comedy comes on. I go, "I'm funnier than this guy. I'm funnier than this guy." And then a guy came on, and he had material, man. He had it down. I was Jerry Seinfeld. I never forget.
Oh, really?
And he did like his whole routine about the going to the amusement parks and the helpless father and son bumper car combination. The whole thing. I mean, he was on, man. And I was like, oh man, this guy's good. And
wow.
then I said I moved to New York, and I moved to New York.
So, did you ever finish your law degree?
Yeah, I did. They mailed the diploma to my parents' house. I never went back and I never went and became a lawyer, took the bar or anything. They just mailed the diploma to my parents' house. My parents just, they flipped out. They were like, he's going to be a lawyer. And then he's like, then he just acted like I was abducted by a religious cult or something.
Yeah.
And they just didn't talk about me for a couple of years, until I did the Tonight Show or something like that. When they go, oh, okay, yeah, I guess he's doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not a viable like today. How it was. You were young. You got in trouble. They go, you think you're a comic? Well, go down and see the vice principal. You think you're funny. But now it's like, hey, you think you're funny? Well, go down and see the guidance counselor. Maybe you have a career in comedy for you. It's like a viable option to be a comedian today.
Even when I was a stripper, when I was 18, 19 years old, and even when I told the other strippers, I think I'm going to try comedy, they were like, you don't want to do that.
Lower
what
than
are you insane? You got a good deal here. What's going on? People always say something.
Lower than stripping. It's very similar, right?
Yeah. Law school, stripping, comedy, the worst.
Yeah.
What year was this when you seen Seinfeld and all that? What years were these?
That was probably 79, 78, 79.
Wow.
Somewhere in there, 78, 79.
And how long did you kick it around New York then?
Then I went to New York, and I was there until my first wife and I, Carol Leifer, moved from New York to here in 82. So I kicked around New York from whatever it is, 79 or something, or 78. It's all a blur.
I didn't really remember that you were married to Carol Leifer, but I had heard once that you were married to a girl comic. What's that like?
Well, it was competitive back then.
Yeah.
It was like you come up with a joke, and she's like, "That's better for my act." I go, "No, it's for my act," Or I remember it was tough at times,
Yeah. Who got the Tonight Show first? Did she ever?
I got the Tonight Show first. She got the Letterman Show first.
Oh wow.
And then I remember once we had this agent said, "You guys could be like the next Nichols and May. You guys should go out and work up an act together, and you could be the next Nichols and May."
Can you explain? Because we have a lot of young
Nichols and May were this huge in the 50s, huge comedy team. That like came out of Second City in Chicago.
And Nichols was the director, Mike Nichols.
Mike Nichols, and Elaine May was also a director. They're great. They were a great comedy team that broke a lot of ground. And
what movies did they direct? Just so that the people know.
Well,
these are huge directors.
Now I forget, and I can't remember anything right
Yeah.
now. But they you can look them up. You can IMBD them, and Mike Nichols and Elaine May, were big talents, and they were a team, and they were very funny, and they so then we go out on the road. I mean, we went to like work someplace, Youngstown, Ohio, whatever. And Carol and I go, look, what we'll do is we'll go do our acts together, and then after we do our acts, we'll go on stage and we'll do an act together. And try this out. So the first time we do it, I don't forget, Carol goes up first, I go first, and then we go up together and we're working. And afterwards she goes, well, you got more laughs than me. And I go, well, I thought we were even there. I thought you were hogging the stage.
Dude, I can't even imagine what that must have been like.
That was the first and last time that we tried to do any kind of team thing together.
Oh, really?
That was it.
Yeah, I tried to do a team thing once with Robert Schimmel because people said that to us because at the time, I'm still dirty, and he was king of all the filth, and so people was like, you guys should do like a Nichols and May kind of thing, and so we went and did this gig in Guam, and that's what I did. I would go up, and then he was headlining, and then he would go up, and then we went up together, and it killed. But I can't imagine in this day and age, or even 20, 25 years ago, being married to another comic. Like, I don't know how Tom Segura and Christina Pazynski do it. I don't know how they do it.
They're both on the road differently, so that's why they get along.
Yeah, we were doing it together. Jeff Foxworthy tells a story that I forgot about, that, once we were working in Atlanta together, and Carol would go up first, and I'm going up second, and I'm in the back of the room, right, yelling, give her the light, give her the light. And Foxworthy's going, that's your wife. I'm like, I know that, give her the light, get her off.
Oh my God.
She's gone too long.
Oh my God. He must have been mad at you all the time.
Oh, it was always something. But, it was like, it was one or the other. It's like somebody else told me a story once that, like we worked together, and we were working out on Long Island. And I don't even know this story, but Alan Bursky told me to it. And that Carol and I are on the beach, and we're working this out at the, what do you call
The boardwalk?
No, the famous place on Long Island, the resort, the
Fire Island.
not Fire Island, the Hamptons,
The
Hamptons,
okay.
And so there's this club there, and we're working together, and a banner is going, a plane is pulling a banner over the beach that says, at this comedy club, Carol Leifer. That's just her name, not mine.
Right.
So she sees the plane before I do, and she has to distract me, like, look at this, Rich, look at this magazine. To keep me from looking up and going, hey, how come my name's not on the plane?
Wow. Did it hurt your feelings that she got Letterman? Like, did it matter? Were you so excited when you just did the Tonight Show? It didn't matter that she got Letterman?
No, it didn't matter at all. I mean, I eventually did Letterman. I think she did the Tonight Show too. I mean, but it was competitive. It was a weird thing. I remember we did we both did the New York Laugh Off at the time, which is a big, competitive thing with the Laugh Off. And when they went from like 10 comics down to 5, I didn't make the cut down to 5.
Right.
And we were living together in an apartment, and then they have a camera crew show up from HBO or whoever it was, Showtime, whoever was doing the thing for cable back then, and the camera crew shows up to interview her, and they're like going, you got to leave the apartment now, man. I mean, so I'm like down at a bar drinking, waiting for the interview, going, this is not happening, man. I was not happy,
Wow.
It's like, you feel it. You feel it. It's competitive. Even though she's a woman and I'm a man, it was still, we're both comics. And
so when you got divorced, and I'm asking this because my ex-husband is in the comedy business, but on the business end of it. And so, like, when we got separated, even though I had stopped doing comedy for quite a few years, people wouldn't talk to me. Like, Joey was one of the only first people that would talk to me that did comedy. Like, people picked sides. Did people pick sides?
Oh, sure. Absolutely, And I remember Kevin Rooney came over to move me out of the house I was living with her. And Rooney comes in, he's like, I'm just the Red Cross here to help the wounded. That's all I'm here to do. I'm not taking sides. I'm not, I mean, he wanted to stay friends with Carol too, and he has, but there were certain people who were like, well, I'm taking her side or I'm taking his side.
People get weird even when the two of you aren't weird. Like for I just had an experience where someone said, hey, I'm trying to do this for you, but this person, the booker of this thing, because I don't want to give names, said, I feel uncomfortable because Felicia's ex-husband might, get angry with me, and I want to do business with him because he does really good business right now. And then the person was like, can you call your ex and have him say that that's okay? And I asked the ex, and he's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Like, why would I? I want you to work, bitch. Get off the fucking payroll. You know what I mean? Like, and then other people are like, no, we don't want to offend Dave. It's like, come on now. He wants me off the fucking payroll. But that ain't going to happen.
That ain't going to happen. Don't you want to get remarried soon?
No, I was engaged for a while.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but no, because, when you have kids, and I know you have kids because you were married again.
That's right.
And I don't know how comfortable or uncomfortable you're talking about your children, but when you have kids, it's hard to date.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's a whole thing to go, this person is now in my life, and hey, kids, you got to get to know them. It's a whole deal.
Yeah, yeah.
And as public as we are, and I was never really, I got, one of the things I got uncomfortable sometimes talking to about kids in the act, pulling them into the act,
Yeah.
As especially as they get older. When they were infants, it didn't really matter, but as they get older, you go, I don't want to make them. There's some things you can't help but put them in your act, but there was also kind of a line there. I got to make sure that this is not making fun of them, or they're not the butt, because in every joke somebody gets a pie in the face. So you got to decide who's getting a pie in the face in this joke, and I don't want the kids to be the ones
my
getting.
Kids don't like it when I do jokes about them, and I'm all like, "Bitch, this pie needs to pay for the groceries."
Now, did you have children with Carol?
No, we didn't have any kids.
After you got divorced, you had children.
Yeah, that's right. Got kids with a new wife, the second wife.
And when did you come to LA? When did you realize I'm ready for LA?
Well, Carol and I moved out in '82. She got a pilot.
Wow.
Barry Levinson pilot I think it was called Toast of the Town or something. It was sort of a Ed Sullivan behind the scenes at an Ed Sullivan show, and she got that pilot, and it was like, and back then there was really nothing happening in New York. There was no Comedy Central New York or David Letterman show, or there was no really way to, you moved to LA. When you wanted to have your career take the next level, you had to move to LA. Everybody was doing it back then in the early 80s. And so it was time. She just felt it was time for us to go. And I was like, well, I'm going to drink and do drugs in LA. I do drink and do drugs in New York. Doesn't matter to me. It's just a different location. Of course, it was, now I had to start driving, which was a whole other thing, but,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big difference, but, it didn't really matter to me.
It's funny you just mentioned Ed Sullivan. Can you tell the people? A lot of people don't know who Ed Sullivan is. I grew up on Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan, back when they had 3 channels on TV, he had Sunday nights. He owned Sunday nights. I mean, it was the variety show. I mean, if you wanted to have your career go, I mean, it made people's career. I mean, like one Ed Sullivan show performance, and comics were like then booked into different places, and they had a career. I mean, it was a huge thing, and they paid real money. And they pay like $15,000 an appearance and all. Because people today, they go, oh yeah, they go, oh yeah, guys would get contracts for like 5 appearances, $75,000 or something.
Serious?
People got real money. Yeah, they got real money back then. And now, people will they'll go, hey, how much you get on a Tonight Show? They think you get like $50,000 to do a Tonight Show or something. You go, no, I got like $700.
It's just scale, right?
Scale, whatever it is, and people don't think that, but back then they actually did pay real money to go on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Rich, do you mind if I ask you a question? And you brought it up though, but like about partying. When was the first time you ever did coke? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was in law school, and I was working in this hotel, and this guy was working for the government, and he came into the hotel, and I was doing some stuff in his room, and he goes, hey man, you want a drink? I said, yeah, I have a drink. He goes, hey, you want some cocaine? What's that? I mean, I didn't know what it was at. I was like 22 or 23 years old. I was like, what? He said, yeah, it's cocaine, man. It's great, man. It's terrific. Make you feel good. Blah blah blah. You don't have to convince me too much. Make me feel good. Whatever it was you got.
Right.
I was kind of like doing drugs back then. I was kind of like going to movies. I didn't really want to know what it did to you. I didn't want how it ended up. I just wanted to know it's going to take you somewhere. That's all. And so I did it. But I didn't really. Once I got into comedy. After a while, it became sort of like back in the early 80s, it was all over the place. I mean, it was, you go to those clubs. I mean, Kevin Rooney used to joke that, you go to the clubs, they would give you all the drugs you wanted. But if you ask them for a sandwich, you're like, what? That's half price. Yeah. But the drugs were to keep the monkey hopping,
Yeah.
So that was it,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was probably the first time for me. I was in law school before I even started doing comedy, but I didn't do it a lot.
How long have you been doing comedy?
I said I probably started about 79, 78, 79.
33 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still love it?
Well, I love. I told you before. It takes a lot of energy to turn all that anger and anxiety into big rollicking laughter.
Yeah.
To turn that wheel, and I don't have the same drive. I don't have the same need for approval from a room full of strangers that I used to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I still love to hear the laughter. I love that, you come up with something new. That's the kick for me. I mean, I always feel like comics are like either more of a performer or they're more of a writer. There's the 2 parts of being a stand-up, right? You got to be, unless you can buy all your material, but you got to write and you got to perform. And I always felt I was more excited about the writing part. I always got more excited about coming up with a new idea or having my thought process validated by other people, going, hey, you're not crazy, that's really funny.
Right.
And I always got a kick out of that. And some people are more performers, they're more like, they just want that attention, and that part of me is not as big anymore. I still dig the writing part, but I don't care about being the center of attention that much anymore. It's just not as much, and so I don't have that real yank and pull to get up on stage as I did when I was younger. So I don't make that, I don't go around and hang out at clubs or anything. And there's a lot of anxiety before you go on stage, and it's like sometimes it's like the anxiety's bigger than the payoff of getting on stage.
Do your kids ever see you do comedy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
What's the best time you ever had on stage in front of your kid? Because that's just got to be fucking huge. Like my kids, my act's dirty, so they don't get to see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not they're. Hopefully, they say they're not Googling me, but I don't think they are because they really don't give a shit about me. You know what I mean? As far as that goes, everyone's like, "Oh, they're Googling," and I'm like, "No, I don't think they give a fuck." You know what I mean?
They're not Googling.
They're Googling skateboards. Trust me. They're Googling, music stuff. They're not Googling me. But what's the best time you ever had in front of your kids?
All of my kids have seen me perform at the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach.
Oh, nice.
So I've taken them all down there at different times. So I'd have to say it was there, that they saw me, and it's like they go, wow, that's what he did, or that's it. And to us, it's like, to me, it wasn't like, oh, this is very impressive because this is just what I've done, and I've done for many, many years. But I remember my son coming out of there, and he was probably like 10 years old or whatever, and he was just kind of like, wow, Dad, I mean, that's really wow. All those people were laughing at you. You know, it's a powerful thing. You know, it's a powerful thing when you get. I mean, to me, it's still a hugely powerful thing when you get everybody. You look at an audience and there's all these different people. They don't know each other. They didn't know each other before the show started, and you've got them all in the same rhythm, laughing at the same things. It's a real tribal thing to me. That's what I've always got a kick out of it. You know, we're all together in this one moment, laughing and sharing the same thought, sharing the same experience, and you don't get that in real life too often.
Yeah.
And it's huge, you know. And sometimes you look at a crowd and you go, wow, these people, they probably wouldn't even hang out with each other, but you got them on the same line, you got them on the same thought.
Yeah.
And it's like a real powerful thing. And my son really got it. He was like, wow, all those people were laughing at you. All those people were like, you know, finding you funny, and in that moment, you know. And I was like, yeah, that's how you do. You got to get them laughing at the same time. You don't want them laughing one at a time. You want them all together, all strung out there together, like fish on a line, you know.
Was there ever a point where you got really done with comedy for a while?
Yeah, I think after my second daughter was born, you know, I was like, you know, I'd gone through 5 pilot deals, you know, I didn't get a series of my own, and I was looking at going back out on the road, you know, and I said, man, I don't want to go back out on the road and just be on the road all the time. I got 2 kids, and so I wanted to write, you know, I just wanted to write, and I wasn't going it wasn't like my stand-up wasn't taking me any further, you know. It was kind of a time when you had to have a sitcom and jump to that next level. There's very few people who did it without a sitcom, like a Stephen Wright or someone like that, who jumped into theater level out of the comedy clubs. And I was like, I'm bored with the comedy. I was bored with the comedy clubs, you know, and I didn't want to be back out on the road. I'd stopped drinking and doing drugs, so that part of it was gone, you know. And so I was kind of like, I didn't really feel like performing much then, and so I started writing.
How long have you been writing for now?
I guess since then, like 95, you know.
And what have you written for?
I've written for TV shows like, you know, Roseanne, Foxworthy, Titus, just Becker, just did a lot of TV shows, even did sketch shows like Blue Collar TV, wrote for different comedians, you know.
The time when I had met you at the store was one night when you had gotten off a writing gig. And I remember you were standing there talking to a couple guys who, it doesn't matter, but Chewy came over. And he goes, you see that guy there? That's the guy you want to be. He's a bad motherfucker. At that time, you had sold your act or something.
Oh, yeah. I sold my act out. I sold it to Jeff Foxworthy.
Yes,
sold it to,
and they said he was saying this is what the type of guy he is, that he just sold his fucking act to somebody. I didn't know who it was.
I sold it. I parsed it out, man. I was like, you know, because you get bored with material. It's like, I'm done with this stuff, you know. You know, a lot of it just didn't feel relevant to me anymore, you know. I had a lot of stuff like, you know, men are this and women are that, and I was no longer seeing that, like, black and white distinction between men and women, you know. It's like, oh, maybe it's more like, you know, not all women do this and not all men do that. It just starts becoming, you know, comedy really doesn't work in grays, man. You know, you got to get there. It's all black and white. I say it's this way, and that's the way it is. I mean, you know, you got your opinion, and when you start seeing things in grays, you know, it becomes a little shady up there as a stand-up. You know, it's not as clear. You know, it works best when you're like, I think anyway. When people have, I have. It's like Seinfeld says, you know, there's one person up there speaking, and you better justify that arrangement real soon when you get up there. Why you're the only person in the room who's speaking. Right. You know, because, you know, the rest of the audience is going like, you better be funny, and so to be funny, I think you got to be clear in your opinion. You know, that you don't, you know, that this is, you know, I really believe this, and there's no doubt in my mind about it. And so I was having a lot of doubt back then, and when you have a doubt, I think it takes away a little bit of your comedy.
Now, are you getting up now?
Yeah, I'm getting up now. I still go up, I do stuff. I was saying I do like benefits and that kind of stuff more than I do anything else. And I get down to Comedy Magic once in a while. Another comic and I like to drive down and smoke cigars and then get down there and do it. But it's like, you know, it's like 10 minutes. You're doing like 10-minute sets.
Doesn't it burn your ass a little bit? And I'm just going to be honest, that young people that do comedy really have no historical sense of the people that came before them.
Yeah, that's the way it is, isn't it? I mean, really, comedy doesn't like, even less than music as a pop culture thing. I mean, comedy's the most immediate, you know, of the pop culture things. I mean, it mirrors society so quick and so fast, and it's so intimate in the moment, but it doesn't translate in generations too much. I mean, to me, like, most comics don't outlive the spending power of their generation. You know, when their generation stops going out to the clubs and stops going out and spending money, they're not working too much longer.
Yeah.
And you know, they don't remember generation to generation because it doesn't travel that much. It doesn't. Most comics don't carry over because it's so cued to the moment of how people speak and what the references are. And when those references pass, and you go, it's like being in the comedy rooms when you're a writer. You know, you do a reference to Gilligan's Island, they're going, what do you mean a Gilligan's Island is reference, man? It's 2012.
Well, you know, you said something to me when because you worked with this director, Jordan Brader, who was a comic for a long time, and you guys made a documentary called I Am Comic, and we were talking about comedy, not on camera, but just hanging out talking, and you had said something to me that I repeat to people all the time, that comedy, when you were doing it, was about sarcasm, and now it's about irony. Like the how actual, and I keep telling people that, and people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, that was one of the smartest things anyone's ever said to me about comedy." Can you?
Comedy language changes. So the very language of when we were doing comedy when we started out back in the early '80s, was more sarcasm, you know, and now it's more irony. You see guys with more deadpan and more irony, and so you just the very language that's being spoken to the crowds. I mean, let's face it, you know, the comedy club audience stays the same age. Their 20s and 30s. Once people get beyond that, you know, the age, they don't go out to the clubs as much, and the comic gets older and older. And so you start speaking a comedy language that is not as relevant to them as the people their age are. I mean, everybody wants to hear it from people their age. You want to hear, you know, you want to hear singers you're near your own age. Generally speaking, you know, you want to hear comedy from people your own age. Generally speaking,
unless you get past that hump, like I think Joey is so fucking lucky because his character and his style of comedy speaks to the next generation.
Well, that happens, and it happens.
And that's when it happens, it's fucking huge. Like,
that's right. Like it happens. Like a Rodney Dangerfield did it, and Lewis Black did it, and it's rare.
You lucky fucker.
You know, but it does work. I mean, Rodney was like you know, for younger people back then, for us, Rodney was like the complete breakdown of the American dream. You know, everybody was like successful and making things happen in the American dream in our dad's generation and all right. But here's Rodney going, you know, he was a completely don't get no respect. So he was funny to us in that way.
Yeah.
And like Lewis Black, I mean, to me, Lewis Black to younger people represented that helpless, hopeless, yuppie parent barking, you know, and getting, you know, angry and all, and having no effect whatsoever.
Right.
On the way, you know what I mean, on the world.
Because as soon as they hit the stage, like you, Joey, you're so endearing as a character. Like it's just people want to like you. You know what I mean? Just like how strange is this guy that he's on? And then you're hilarious to boot. But it's an automatic in. It's like such an amazing thing when it happens. Correctly.
Older comics, there are plenty of older comics have done well and continue to do well. You know, and just continue to perform. You know, but I'm just saying, generally speaking, you know, there is a sort of a winnowing, you know, there's a sort of like things get shaved down, you know, the numbers get shaved down. There aren't as many older comics as there are younger comics, obviously.
Yeah.
I can't see, you know, I'm going to be 50, and I told you when we were having coffee that at this age, I couldn't see myself going on stage anymore. And part of the reason is because in the back of my mind, I feel like Sandusky. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna fucking lie to you.
Yeah.
You know, when I go to a weed store and I see an old guy with a ponytail with a 1969 shirt, I want to smack him in the fucking face. That's just me. If you're 50, be 50. Act like you're 50. Rodney was a rarity because I still remember buying beers, which I don't even fucking drink. You know, I drank after I did blow. You know, I remember buying a 6-pack of Budweiser to take to see Easy Money. Easy Money was 1984. Rodney was 50-something years old, and I was 21. And I couldn't get enough of fucking Rodney. Nobody could, no matter what age.
Right.
But still, when I get up on stage now, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? These poor kids, you know what I'm saying? I feel like a child molester up there. And, but, you know, whatever
I understand that.
But then again, you know, listen, man, let's get this shit out of the way. I grew up in a house with my mother where you had 2 seconds to get her attention. So whatever came out of your mouth better be more important than what's on her fucking mind. That's the way I am with people. You know what was on her mind? Money, cock, and drinking. You know, she had a bar and she loved the fucking Mets. So whatever you had to say better be more fucking important than what's going on in her mind. And I'm an only child. So I got a party in my fucking mind all the time. So whatever the fuck you got to say, you got about 10 seconds. It better be about money, pussy, you know, whatever, smoking weed, whatever is into my thing.
I haven't really held your attention much.
No. But when I go out there on stage, you know, I remember watching Carol on the Rodney Dangerfield special. To me, when I got into comedy in 1991, that was my Bible. And I got to watch 10 great comics, from Herrera to Lenny Clark. I remember Lenny Clark got my fucking attention. He went up there and he fucking grabbed you the first 3 lines out of his fucking mouth. He grabbed you, whether you liked him or not or whatever. And that was the style I liked. I like people who fucking grab you. We got no time to fuck around. I got 40 fucking minutes and I got 49 years in my head of, you know? So it's that style of grabbing them that I see people fucking just, you got to grab them. You know, you got to fucking grab them. I book a room in Brea, and an older comic from the Comedy Store came to me like a man and said, I'm not getting that much work. It would really be nice to do your room. I offered him money, and he said, I'm not. First he said, this is not the money I'm used to getting. I said, so, you don't work. So now I got to give you double the vig. I gave him double the vig.
Double the vig.
And he got up, and he got up there and he opened up with a fucking, what's the movie with the Scientologist and Val Kilmer when they fly planes? Danger Zone. Whatever the fuck the movie is. Tin Cup. Whatever the fuck it was. Whatever the fuck it was. The point being that it's 2010, and you're up there talking about 1984 in a crowd of, so they don't
talking about, Joe.
You know, so here you are not working, but you're up there, you know, giving Michael Jackson references, and, you know, talking about fucking, John, what was the good quarterback from Baltimore when we were kids, Johnny Unitas. Are you fucking kidding me? You know, you fucking kidding me? You know, these fucking Mobo kids today, they don't know dick. You know, they don't know who Charles Bronson is.
They gotta sit there and Google it.
Yeah, they gotta hold on 1 second. That's why I said fucking...
No, it's scary. It's
scary. Fucking scary.
Yeah.
I got a 24-year-old kid I hang out with, does a podcast with me. He's never seen Once Upon a Time in America. He's never seen Outlaw Josie Wales. You want to grab these motherfuckers and go, how do you survive? But they think Avatar is a fucking great movie. That's why. Because they've never seen the good, bad, and the fucking ugly. It would kill them. Their minds were, you know, you were talking about, what's the guy that owned TV? What's the guy we're talking about? The guy when we were kids that had he'd come out tonight, the Beatles.
Ed Sullivan.
Yeah. I read this fucking thing. I'm reading this book about New York, setting New York on fire, about music in New York in the 70s, and how it went from music to discos. Fucking has blown my mind. And there's a chapter when there were these disco owners would spike the punch with Quaaludes in the 70s and acid and shit just to fuck up because Mick Jagger would go in there, the Stones. But one night Ed Sullivan walked in. And he's like, I want some punch. And they're like, no, don't give him the fucking punch, right? So they gave him the punch, and they put him in the back room, like the VIP area, and they sent hookers back. Like the clubs had hookers in those days that would suck your dick, you know, the VIP lounge, whatever. And they went back, the chick started squeezing his nipples, and fucking Ed Sullivan freaked out, went into a corner and started crying. Oh, you gotta read this shit. And they took him to the hospital, and then the club owners worried about him. I'm reading this, and I'm going, you know, what if a kid reads this today? He can't laugh because they were saying in the book Ed Sullivan was the straightest man in America at the time.
Yeah, he
didn't even want the Beatles in there. Like, it was just overwhelming. He didn't like long hair or reefer. They gave this guy acid. He was in a corner. Kids wouldn't understand it, you know, because they don't know who fucking Ed Sullivan is. They don't know who Sonny and Cher is.
But they don't have to. It's not.
You're right. Yeah, it's not even.
You don't have to go to a comedy club and oh, wait a minute, I got to prelude my brain to adjust to this 50-year-old comic up there now? No, you have to.
No, it's your job to sell it. Yeah,
it's
your job to sell it.
It's your job to be. That's the stretch for most comics that they don't want to make or can't make anymore. Just like this comic you're talking about. They go, look, I have this act that I do that I did, you know, back in the 80s, very successful. Well, you got to write a new act now. Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, most comics back then, they tried to be like vaudeville acts. You remember that? They would have the same act they take on the road. You know, when the comedy clubs on, there are so many comedy clubs. They go, look, I don't have to change my act. I can just do the same act that's 40 minutes I got, and I have 45 or whatever, and go do it around the country, and never have to change my act because there were so many comedy clubs. But that's changed now. That's that whole different situation.
Oh yeah, because then you put your comedy on the internet, and then when people come see you, they see your act. So then you have to be very careful about what you're doing with your comedy.
I mean, I always say to
How much
myself, do
you
you think
change it
Richard
around?
Pryor would have gone home today and gone on Twitter? Do you really think Richard Pryor would have gone on Twitter and typed in, "Thank you for coming to the Comedy Store tonight. Here's my email list."
My favorite is when comics give themselves reviews. I killed last night.
Yeah. Oh, Facebook is. I
That's just
follow
my
all the retards because I love laughing. I follow guys that tell you when they audition and who they met with, and it's hysterical. I follow them just to fucking laugh, just to see what not to do on the fucking computer. You know. Besides, I mean, was that your first biggest accomplishment after '82? Was Carson or were there HBO
Yeah,
specials?
it was Carson, and I did Letterman, and I did Showtime, and I did HBO.
So you
Yeah,
did
that's
Carson
everything you're
first,
supposed to do.
and then everything opened up.
Yeah, Carson.
The way it was supposed to.
That was it. You know, and I remember, you know, that. Well, it wasn't. You know, it wasn't like it was earlier. You know, there were a couple of people who really it broke and meant something too. Like Roseanne did it, and it really was big and important to her.
Yeah.
And you could see
Yeah.
a shift in her career. And there was Stephen Wright. You could see a shift in career. But for a lot of us, it was like, okay, you did it. What do you get out of it? You get to get the material together to do another one. That's what you got to get out of it. You know, the opportunity to do another one. You had to keep doing them and keep doing all these things. And you thought it would lead to something. It was leading to was these development deals, which everyone was getting. The networks came and said, look, we want to try to do some sort of show with you, and here's 6 figures to hold you for 6 months or a year while we figure out what to do with you. And that was great because it was a lot of money, and it meant that you were in the game to get a sitcom, which is what careers were made of back then. You know, you had to get. I mean, that's what made Roseanne. That's what made Seinfeld. That's what made Tim Allen. That's what guys were getting. You know, getting careers with sitcoms. There wasn't a really way to become, you know, to get out of you know, there's a big jump from the comedy clubs to theaters. When you got to get people to go, because they're used to going to comedy clubs anyway. They're used to going to comedy clubs. But to get them to go into the theater, you know, where you get them to come and pay money to go see you in the theater, that's a huge leap. That's a huge career leap. And I remember a lot, I mean, look, I remember myself, I was packing the clubs in Austin, Texas. And somebody said, a promoter in there said, man, you're so popular in town. You got to come to a theater here next time. Next time, forget this. 6 months from now, don't come to the comedy club. Go to the theater. We're going to go to book at the Austin Opry House and 1,200 seats. And you're a slam dunk. It was like 300 people showed up. And when you come out and there's 1,200 seats, there's only 300 people there.
Yeah.
It ain't happening, baby.
Yeah.
And that's a big jump.
Is there one thing you wish secretly in the deepest part of your heart that you would have done differently when it comes to your comedy? Or do you even second guess yourself like that?
No, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave it everything I had. I put everything
Yeah.
I had into it. You know, I did. Look, I remember I was on Married with Children. You know, I mean, this was a show that wasn't even. You know, it's like this stuff happens by luck. You know, I was auditioning for the show. It wasn't even a network then. Fox was like, it's going to be a new network, and this is going to be like the first sitcom on it. And I remember sitting in the hallway. I'd gone to like the
88.
This is
88. I was in prison.
You go to network.
That was my show on Sunday nights, motherfucker.
Well, back then you go to network. They get down to the last 3 actors who are going up for this role. I did it with Woody Harrelson when he got the coach's job on Cheers, and I didn't make it that one. And then I was down to the last 3, and I'm sitting in the hallway, and the 2 producers, Ron Levitt, Michael Moy, come walking down the hallway, and the actor sitting across me jumps up and goes, "Hey, Michael!" And he goes over and hugs the producer, and the producer goes, "You got your bag here yet? Could you stay with me for the weekend?" I look at the other actor slumps in his chair. I'm going, "It's over. I don't know why we're here. This guy's got the role." So I didn't care, and I was getting ready to get up and leave, and the you know, somebody comes out and says, "Ritch Shydner, you're in now." So I said, "Well, I'll go in." And I went in there. I did not care, and I'm making fun of. There's no network. I said, "This is all goof." And I'm having a blast, and I'm funny, and I've never been better in a reading in my life because I didn't care. And I walk out, they go, the Fox Network executives goes, "That's the guy, man." After the 3 come in, they go, that guy Shydner, he was hilarious, he's the guy. And Michael Moy goes, no, my friend, I wrote this role for my friend. He's a trained actor from New York, he's the guy. They go, "Forget him, we're going with the funny guy."
Yeah.
So they hire me. Well, as soon as I won the role, I lost the role. Because Michael Moy hated me, and he hated the role. And after 8 episodes, one weekend, you know, you're supposed to get the script on Friday for the Monday table read, and I didn't get my script on Friday. So I called my agent, go, "Hey, I didn't get my script. What's up?" He goes, "It's some sort of delivery problem. No, I'll take care of it." He calls up, "Yeah, I'll call you right back." And he calls me back, and he goes, "Hey, I got bad news." I go, "What?" He goes, "They dropped your character. You're done." And that's how you find out in show business.
Yeah.
They don't call you up and go, oh, you know, we're not going to use your character anymore. They just go, they don't send a script to you 1 week.
Yeah.
And that was it. I don't have any regrets for anything I did.
I don't have regrets because I stopped doing comedy for 8 years, almost 9 years, and sometimes you are working clubs and you are hanging out with other comics and you're like, fuck, if I would have just not quit comedy, I would have been at this level. But the thing is, I needed to quit comedy because I was just so angry at it and just wasn't enjoying it. So it was good that I took time off.
Yeah, you have to then, because you can't go on stage angry at the audience. You have to go on stage wanting to serve them. I mean, if you go, as soon as you go on stage want to do anything more than get laughs out of them, you're up there for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened a lot. People were back there going, you know, I got to get, why aren't I getting discovered? Why don't, you know, you saw that happen all the time in the showcase clubs back in the 80s when people were getting yanked out of the showcase clubs and given, you know, career deals and given sitcom roles and all that. And other guys were going, why am I not getting ranked? And they started getting angry and frustrated that they're not getting what they thought they should get out of it. And all you should ever get out of it is get the audience laughing.
What time in comedy did you have where it went so wonderfully you actually looked around and go, I fucking can't believe I am in this position right now? Did you ever have a moment like that?
Yeah, back in the improv, back in those early 80s, you know, I mean, it was like in the improv in LA and in West Hollywood, you know, and I remember one night I'm following Jerry Seinfeld and Robin Williams comes on stage after me and I'm like going, I am right, I mean, you know, just killed, and I go off and I stand in the corner and watching Robin Williams. I go, I can't believe I'm right in the zone. I'm right in between Seinfeld and Robin Williams. I mean, who'd I ever thought? I never thought I'd, you know, got into this business to even have a career out of it. But here I'm in Hollywood and I've got a career and people know him and people come up and shaking my hand and, you know, Carl Reiner walks by and goes, hey, you're funny. And I go, Carl Reiner just said I was funny. You know, I mean, I didn't have it in my mind ever that I would be in that position. Mm-hmm. And I felt really in the groove right then. Absolutely.
What do you think it is for, there's so many comics that are competent and exceptional in their own little way, but they never quite make it. What do you think it is that where others do make it? For what reason? Do you think it's just luck, happenstance? I got
a couple of theories. One is it's all about likability, you know. And I have a theory that you, as a comic, you're either beaten like a dog growing up, treated like a POW, or you were the prince or princess of the family. Uh-huh. And the ones who were beaten like dogs, you know, they go on stage. It's more like you know, they're holding a gun to their head, going, "Can you see me now? Can you hear me now?"
Right.
You know, and they're not going to become the big cross the board star. They may become cult status, but they won't become the over the top of the other ones who have a more, you know, the ones who were treated like prince or princesses have this more narcissistic performance. Like, you're like, look, mom, no hands. Look, mom, no hands. And there's more glee and freedom in their performance and just more likability. The audience reacts to, I think, it resonates with them in a much easier way. And they're the ones that, to me, tend to become the bigger stars and all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Other than that, I can't really.
Do you think that's just in comedy, or that's just in general, like in life? You know, like you know, I know that when people listen to us and you're like, oh, it's just a bunch of comics or blah blah blah, but we're just normal people too. I mean, like, don't you think that can be in any kind of work or life situation that some people just get fucking lucky or succeed?
Yeah,
or just,
sure,
you know?
sure, but not every job has it so cued into how much the audience likes you. I mean, they really do. They choose one person or another. They go, I like this person. I want to hear from this person. And the other person, I mean, I used to sit in the back of the room with Uncle Dirty in New York. I don't know if you knew who he was. Mm-hmm. His name was Robert Altman. He was a contemporary of George Carlin. And when we were in New York City back in the early days, back in 1979, 80, whatever, he was like this older comedian. I mean, he was just, you know, 20 years older than us or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'd sit in the back of the room with him drinking, and we'd watch other comics go on stage, and he'd always go, this guy's got great material but no personality. He'll become a writer. This guy's got great personality, great writer. He has a chance to go all the way. This guy has no personality, no material. He'll become an agent. And he would just pin him like that. You know? And I go, it really is. It breaks down to, you know, you're a writer.
Do you think he aimed it pretty correctly at people?
He did a lot. He nailed it a lot. You know, he nailed a lot. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's two things, you know, but mainly it's a performance art. There is a writing aspect to it that's real important for us, especially for us. I mean, some obviously, some comics, they don't care where they get the material from, whether they steal it or buy it or whatever. They just want to perform.
Well, at a certain point, you have to buy material. At a certain point.
Well, if you're big, and you're turning over that, and you're churning up that many performances and that many, HBO specials or whatever it is, you're doing that much TV, and you're churning up that much material. You need it. Absolutely, you're going to get writers. But people don't want to. It's not like people brag about their writing staff anymore. It's not like that anymore because the audience wants to think that everything comes from that particular comic.
Hey, you're still choosing the pieces you from the writers. I mean, that's a fucking skill in itself.
Absolutely. That doesn't take away anything from the comic and what they present. Right? They just can't write it all. It's not possible.
Have you ever bought material, Joey Diaz?
No.
No. Do you think you could do someone else's material?
No.
Even if they wrote for your character?
They'd have to know me. They'd have to know, the inside of the, I don't know. I've had people give me tags that's always caused me problems.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. 2 people gave me tags. I used them, and I got into a fist fight with one.
Why's that?
Because she gave me a tag that I didn't really like that much, and I said it one night in Houston, and I said it in L.A., and about a year later, I got a fucking late call from Houston that the girl that gave me the tag was doing the fucking tag. So I stopped doing it, and then this other comic was talking shit about me, and I didn't know. And then one night I was at the Comedy Store at the Improv about 2 years ago, and I walk in, the guy stepped up to me, and I had to spit in his face. You know me, I'm a fuck. You want to turn it on? I'll turn it on. And that was the end of that.
In him. That's
my Jersey shit. Yeah. That's the Cuban Jersey.
Joey spits. You want to get the fuck out of the room.
I spit in his face
because
the hand was going to be next, and I couldn't hit him. He was a little older than I was. So I felt bad about the whole situation, but I don't know. I've never really, especially now from podcasting, I feel that now my guts are really starting to come out. Like my guts the last 3 years, for 12 years I was in this town, movies, TV shows, nobody said a word to me. Nobody said a fucking word to me. Great movies, Spider-Man 2, great Adam Sandler movies, casting on my own, Denzel Washington movies. When you get here, they tell you one thing, then when you accomplish that, go, you need a TV show. It was always, and I started a podcast with Felicia. I told a story about mugging a hooker and lighting her fucking wig on fire and taking her to a cemetery in Jersey. We did a show.
Felicia's going, that old story.
We did a 10-10-10 show. We went down and there was 100 people. I did an Adam Sandler movie and 4 people showed up. I tell a story about, and then Felicia tells me, you're a great storyteller, run with it. People want to hear this shit. Now, the way this is going, people want to hear about your guts and potatoes on stage anymore. They don't, especially from me. They don't want to hear me going up there and going, my wife is pregnant. They know that from the podcast, and obviously they don't give a fuck. They want my real take on it.
That's what people.
That's it. That's fucking it. Everything else now, I'm looking at this shit. Louis was going to change it. Louis' style of comedy this year changed it. Every 2 years, a style of comedy comes along and changes it. And right now, my star is aligned with that style of comedy. I'm a little older. People, 10 years ago, if you're over 27, you'll never make it in this town. That's the dumbest fucking statement I ever fucking made about, anybody's ever made in their life. Felicia asked you a really interesting question about, I used to work for a sports betting service. And during the week you have basketball, correct? Right? People want to bet basketball. Right. So you give out 3 games in basketball. So I could either give you 3 games, I give you 1. I got to know my clients. I know Felicia's a filthy fucking gambler. And if I give her 3 games, she's going to bet fucking all 3 of them in parlays, and she's not going to listen to what I say. And I know that if I give you the fucking pick, you're going to bet it solid for everything, and you're going to make money. I would give you both the same players, and at the end of the week, she would lose and you would win. And I take that same aspect for comedy, with gambling. And we could both do the same fucking work, What's the guy with the sideburns? It's at Dirty Rock with the fucking hat on.
Judah Friedlander.
Right. Great kid.
Yeah.
If Judah takes a piss in the corner, they got bumper fucking stickers all over Sunset. And everybody's clapping. And I'm just using Judah. Again, you have to fucking promote yourself in this business now. When you were a stand-up, you focused on fucking stand-up.
That was it.
That's it. You went down and you were the funniest motherfucker you could be. Now I got people telling me that go fucking get an ad because black chicks dancing with signs will get people to come to your Facebook. It's a different game. I think people are losing the fucking patois. I'm sitting here looking at you, and a couple weeks ago I saw you at the coffee shop. This is a true story. And I seen you, and the first thing I thought about was what Chewy said to me. If I was a regular fucking Momo in L.A., I should have gone up and introduced myself. But by the look of you and the way you carry yourself, you already knew what the fuck I was going to tell you, that you were a bad motherfucker. So I left you alone. I seen you with some hot chick. I didn't know if you were a freak, and she turned out to be your daughter, so...
You were a freak. I got this 17-year-old.
I didn't know if you wanted to be bothered, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I could see by the way you walk and how you carry yourself, you're a bad motherfucker. You know, and I know when you were a stand-up, you were tenacious. You wouldn't have had the credits that you had.
Absolutely.
And the life and the respect you get from people if you weren't who the fuck you were. So it has to do with luck, but at one point you also got to pick your fucking balls up and say, why the fuck am I living here amongst these fucking jerk-offs? And that's what you did. I could tell by looking at you and by your story and by the people, how they talk about you. You know what I'm saying? This is all great and dandy, but when you're a comic, and especially, you got to pick up your fucking nuts and ask yourself why the fuck I'm doing this, you know? And
It's true.
It's such a great fucking game. This is such a great game. I got into this after I got locked up. You know, and you hear these people that talk to you about this, and like you, I could tell by talking to you, I got 10 hours. I could sit and listen to you for 10 hours just about the mechanics of comedy. Yeah. You have broken this motherfucker down to a science.
Everybody I know who cares about it, who's in it for a while, has to examine what you're doing.
You broke this down to a science. Absolutely. I'm in awe right now because what you said about the audience, you know, you simplified it to me. And part of what you said, I got to tell you, insulted me a little bit. But it's the fucking truth. You know, we're going out there, we're looking for approval of our thoughts or whatever.
Absolutely.
And you've gotten it down to a science. So for your understanding of the game, I know you're a bad motherfucker.
You know, when you talked about, I listened to two different people told me this at two different times. That listen to what the audience is laughing at. They'll tell you what's funny about yourself and what you should be doing. And Rodney Dangerfield said it when I worked at this club. They used to go in there. He'd have like these proms would come in, and he'd hire us young comics to come in and work his club down in New York. These proms would come in. They were just Long Island, man. It was like you had a table. They were just crazed, man. You just had a chair and a whip working this crowd. You know, just you find out which guy was the biggest mouth, and you tear him apart, and all the rest of the audience would just eat him alive. You know, and it was just 2 a.m. till 4 a.m. And Rodney was sitting in the back in his robe, you know, laughing his ass off, watching up there fighting it out. And then one night I was back there, and afterwards, Rodney, you know, come have a drink, and some blow with him, and he goes, kid, you got to do the stuff on men and women. That's what they like. That's what they love about you. You know, listen to the audience, man. He said, individually, they may be orangutans, but as a group, they're genius.
So you did coke with Rodney. That's all I heard about that whole thing, Ritch Shydner.
Absolutely,
Rodney?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because Rodney loved young comics. He loved the thing, and then Phyllis Diller told me the exact same thing.
But you didn't party with Phyllis Diller.
No, I never partied with Phyllis Diller.
That would be a crazy story.
I know people who did. She partied.
Can you imagine giving her a fucking bump and watching her hair go bananas? After like 2 hours, the sweat and the steam from your forehead makes that hairspray go fucking bananas. I used to do blow with a guy with a wig. And after 2 or 3 hours, you see the wig start fucking floating away. You ever do blow with somebody with a wig? The skunk comes back to life, Ritch Shydner. It just pops up. He's got to keep pulling it down. Jesus Christ, this is a draft again. It ain't a draft, motherfucker.
Well, I used to perspire. I used to perspire on stage, man, and oh my God.
See, but I couldn't do powder before stage.
No, I couldn't do anything.
Never.
I found it the hard way. I did it in every. I went on stage tripping on acid. I went on stage in every. I remember once I was opening up for Peter Tosh. It was his reggae, and Rich Hall, another comic, had already opened up for him. He said, "Listen, whatever you're doing, man." This was back in like 1980 or whatever in Washington D.C. He said, "Whatever you do, man, stay away from backstage, man." He says you can't go near backstage, and these guys are like they got smoke that's like nothing you ever had. So I'm like, look, man, I smoke, I drunk, you ain't tell me nothing. I'm backstage. This guy, you know, I'm standing there getting ready to go in, and this Rastafarian hands me this split that's like, you know, it's like a hoagie. He hands me this
takes 2 hands to hold it.
Right, you know, I take a couple of hits of this thing, and I turn to the stage, and I can't see the microphone, man. I can't, you know, I gotta go on stage and perform in front of this full house, and I am high. I am so freaking high. I walk out there floating, and I'm like, hey, you know. And fortunately, you know, it's one of those nights, you know, you can do a drug, and if the audience is on the same drug, you know,
then it's okay.
You can groove right with them, and that's what happened, man.
Oh, I think the worst thing is when you go on stage when you're high and you're doing your act and you're watching yourself doing your act. Oh, that's the worst. Because it just throws you off.
Oh no! I remember one time I was in Columbus, Ohio, and I've been doing blow all day long, and again I had to learn the hard way. And then the club owner don't blow, and that show that night I go on stage, and I always talk fast anyway. And I get up there, and I'm like, and I look at the audience, they're all like staring at me like, and I go, I'll be right back. And I run to the back of the room, and I just take a couple of shots of whiskey and run back on stage. And the whole audience starts drinking, right? And I'm drinking with them. And then about a half hour in, I start to go, oh man, I'm getting my drunk legs on, man. I'm starting to wobble a little bit. So I go, I'll be right back. And I run into the bathroom and I do blow. And that was the whole night, was either drinking or blow, trying to find that equilibrium.
Well, fuck, how much time were you doing on stage?
Oh, back then it was like, you go into town and you go, who's got the record for how long you've been on? And they go, well, Glenn Hirsch was just here. He did like 2 hours ago. Going to beat it tonight. And it was just all about how long you could stay up there and hold that audience.
Yeah.
And they were all drinking. And the club owners, most of the comics back then were booked about, like today it's like how many, Twitter
Tickets
followers you
have.
You can't get booked unless you have so many Twitter followers. Well, back there it was like, how much liquor can you sell? You were a liquor pimp, man. And how much liquor can you sell? And there's guys that were like Ollie Joe Prater or John Fox who drank the whole time they were on stage. Well, they sold a lot of liquor. So people go, how come those guys always get booked? Like, of course they always get booked, man. It's a bar and they're selling booze.
Did you ever meet Ollie Joe Prater?
No.
Oh, do you know who he is?
Yeah.
Ollie Joe Prater was a old school comic, and he was huge. He was big, but he was a cowboy and had a hat, and he was the biggest fucking comedy thief.
Oh
ever.
yeah. They used to say if Ollie
thief,
Joe said hello to you, that means you stole one of your jokes.
Yeah.
If Ollie Joe bought you a drink, that means you stole a couple of your jokes.
And he could
if Ollie
drink
Joe
on
bought you
stage.
dinner, you just played Cleveland.
Yeah.
And he was huge, and he was a
He was
partier. Man, I
huge.
remember once I was in Pittsburgh, and Ollie Joe was working the Pittsburgh club, and I was working they had like another club outside in the suburbs, right? And I only had 2 shows on a Saturday night. He had 3 shows. So I come in because I'm going to party with the guys in the Pittsburgh club afterwards, and I'm watching him standing in the back of the room, and Ollie Joe's on stage working, and he's been partying all week, and he starts bleeding out of his nose, and he doesn't realize, he just thinks it's like, and he's wiping his sleeve on his nose with his sleeve, and he's got a white shirt, it's blood, just blood, and the audience is starting to go, ugh, and he's looking and go, and he sees the blood, he goes, what's the matter? Ain't you fuckers ever partied before? Come on. And then he takes one more drink and he goes down. He just falls down on the stage. I mean, he's still got the mic in his hand. It's like, like a pry this gun out of my cold hands. He's holding the mic and he's like, he's kind of mumbling. So they go, get up there, get him off. So we get up there and they carry him off, and I like close the show out, trying to bring him back. Hey, folks, like they didn't see anything that happened.
Right.
All right, folks, here we go. How about those rental cars? They're really weird, aren't they? And I started trying to do my act, and then Ollie Joe, he's passed out, and they're taking him back to the hotel, the Viking hotel, I'll never forget. And we're a couple of cars there. We pull up, and Ollie Joe wakes up. He heard somebody say party, and Ollie Joe wakes up and goes, party? Well, you ain't dropped me off the hotel. I'm going to the party. That was him.
He was huge, Joey. One time I was working with him in San Diego at the La Jolla Comedy Store, and we were in different condos, but I was driving him to the club, and he had walked down. He calls me up in the condo, and he's like, all right, meet me downstairs. I'll be by the elevator. And the elevator didn't work or something, and he had walked down the stairs, but it was so much exercise. So I don't know, I was like in my car, and I pull up, and he is laying flat on his fucking back, and I'm like, oh my God, Ollie Joe Prater's having a fucking heart attack. And I run up to him, and I'm like, Ollie Joe Prater. And he's like, don't worry, I'm just resting. I was all like, fuck, dude. That scared the shit out of me. Like, I
heard the end, he was so big, there was such an effort to get him on stage and all that, they would have him on stage, and they'd cover a sheet over him, and then the first 2 acts would work in front of him, with Ollie Joe underneath a sheet behind him, just drinking and waiting for his turn. And then they'd go, Ollie Joe Prater, and they'd pull the sheet off, and he'd do his act.
Well, that's kind of what makes me a little bit sad about that is fucking frightening. That is frightening. Joey, I will never do that for you.
What? Showbiz?
That is frightening. Wow. But doesn't it make you sad, though, in a way that those stories aren't told in a bigger sense to young comedians now, I guess, other than podcasting.
Listen, if they don't know who the fuck the guy on Channel 2 CBS who ran the country was, they're definitely not going to know who Ollie Joe Prater is. You know what I'm saying?
But that makes me sad, because they're just characters that you can't even write. They were so crazy,
Look, I mean, you can tell, everybody, when you talk about people that are changing and move on and all, I remember I was in college, and I knew who Dick Gregory was. I was a fan of comedy back then, before I even had an inkling I could possibly get into it. And Dick Gregory was coming to my college to perform. I thought, Dick Gregory, I was so excited.
Well, explain who Dick Gregory was.
Dick Gregory, in the early 1960s, was the first black comedian to be able to speak to white audiences. I mean, he broke through in a huge way, and he did a lot of civil rights material, but he was a very funny guy, and he was huge. I mean, he was... the Chicago Playboy Club, one night, Irwin Corey didn't show up, and they go, we're going to put a comedian on. We got to hire, so let's give this guy, this young black comedian, Dick Gregory, a chance. And that was a big deal. The Chicago Playboy Club was huge. And he goes in, and in front of this conventioneers of this white Southern frozen food industry conventioneers, he killed. And within weeks, man, he was on the Jack Parr show. I mean, just meteoric, just huge rise to success. And he kind of really gave his career up, you know, because he got involved in the civil rights, and he really sort of, you know, gave his career up, you know, and to do that. And so when I went to see him, you know, back in 1971 or whatever in my college, you know, I thought, this is Dick Gregory, I can't wait to. And he came, and he turned into a sort of a fruitarian or something. I remember him speaking on eating the whole time. I'm sitting there high as a fucking kite, waiting for Dick Gregory to do comedy, and he never did anything. He spoke for like an hour and a half on what to eat and how to live and you know, stop smoking and all this, and because he was past it. He was no longer wanting to be a comedian like that. Yeah. He was in a different place. I mean, people change, and that's what happened to him. I mean, if you know, there's a certain part of you, you're going to be a comic, you have to stay young and crazy. You know, there's a certain part of you. You know, you can't grow up in a certain aspect of it. You can't. You know.
Do you think comedy is a noble profession?
Absolutely. To make people laugh is huge. It's a very noble profession. Absolutely.
There you go. Thank you so much, Ritch Shydner, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, because I certainly did.
I certainly did, Felicia and Joey.
I had to end it when you said fruitarian. I was like, this motherfucker. Fruitarian. I'd never heard that before.
Until he talked about it, I knew what he was talking about.
Fruitarian.
I'm sitting there eating McDonald's burgers and getting high in 1971. What did I know about fruitarian?
If you've liked today's podcast, do us a big favor. Support the podcast and go to proflowers.com and order some flowers for the holiday season. And if you would like, please go and review us on iTunes. But most importantly, we've been nominated for a comedy award on the podcast awards for Best Comedy Podcast. So go vote for us at podcastawards.com. What do you have shaking you sexy?
I was reading that flower thing, and I was thinking, like, I got to go back every year to put flowers on my mother's grave. Every year I go to Jersey, I land, I rent a fucking car, and I got to drive to North Bergen and put flowers on her grave. And then for 2 days I see my friends. I was reading up on this. Now I can just send the flowers to my friend's house, and they can just drop the flowers off on my mother on his own. So there's a bunch of things you could do. Like, I was just thinking about this, and I'm at that age, I'm going to be 50, that the kids I went to school with, I was tight with them and their parents. They're starting to drop like fucking flies. So you could still send flowers through that service also. We get a little taste, and also go to the other one. What's the other one they can go to? Because it's the fucking holidays. Right now,
Amazon.
you people are going to go to Amazon. Do us a favor.
We have an Amazon
fucking go to Amazon. You're going to order a book. If you even order the book American Desperado, the John Roberts story, and go to Amazon and click on. That's what I fucking did. $7.99, $8.99. It's that easy. We get a little taste, and everybody's fucking happy.
Do it through our
Felicia
podcast.
pays for her lip sync
really?
thing, and that's it.
We have a banner on the podcast, and
Sure,
people
you
go
make
to
a
the
little
banner and they
scratch.
click through it. It's like a portal that takes them to Amazon. It's like that's how they tell who heard what when.
Where are you this weekend, Felicia? Anyway?
I'm going to be at the Ice House on Sunday. I'm doing a show. I'm doing a clean show. I'm doing a clean. You know why? Because I got tired of working. I was talking to someone, and we were talking about dirty comedy, and I was like, I just don't like to do clean shows. And they were like, Christ, at this point, if you're still worried about clean material, you know what I mean? You haven't just been working hard enough. And I was like, whoa, fuck. So now I have a spot on Sunday, and I've promised Jan at the Ice House I would do clean material, but I'm going to do one pussy joke. I'm going to try.
The 16th and the 17th, I'm at the Scottsdale Comedy, Comedy Spot, whatever it is. Go down there. There's only 4 shows. The seats 100. Take your time, but hurry the fuck up, all right?
By the way, people should go to the Comedy Spot to see you, because that fucking room can rock it. When there's 100 people in that room and you get them going, holy shit.
Well, that's when comedy's best, man. That's like a little Maserati.
Yeah, I love little rooms.
Any direction.
That is shaking, not
start,
stirring.
stop, as fast as you want.
I go down there,
Much
change
different
up
than
the
a big
material.
bus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
very
great
nice.
room.
That's
Yeah,
what's beautiful.
Comedy
I
Spot
mean, if you
is
fart in this
stuff.
fucking room, everybody gets a whiff. That's how small it is. It's that fucking small.
Trying to get people to your show, not driving away from the show.
Hey, listen. Like
You smell every stink of every person in
I told fucking Rob
You're
here, Rich,
jammed in there. You're on top of it, man. Your nose is the assholes all over
people
the
want
place.
your fucking insides. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I'm going to give them to you, cocksucker.
Folks, I've been in
Come
the
on
car
down.
with Joey on his insides. It's not
And especially
pretty.
now, I mean, this protein powder, forget about it. I'll fart in your fucking...
Yeah, don't be a fruitarian. You'll really be farting then.
That's right.
But
Thank
do
you
leave
very
us
much.
a review on iTunes. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, brother, for
listening.
being on. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and you're a true fucking champion, all right?
Go away.
All right, stay black, guys. Felicia, throw him a kiss.
Mwah.
What the fuck? Wow.